RPGs have never really been my favorite genre of game. That's not to say I dislike RPG games, but I feel like a large chunk of them seem to go through the same problem. In my experience with a lot of MMOs and RPG games, the first 10 hours are usually a blast, with a ton of unique quests, lots of leveling and new gear, as well as plenty of discovery of the world around you. However, there almost always seems to be a point in many RPG games where the game seems to come to a screeching halt and you find yourself at the grind. A lot of the time, you end up fighting a lot of the same enemies and doing quests which are functionally the same as other ones you've done before, all in the name of leveling and trying to RNG your way to better gear and loot. After a while, it really just begins to lose its luster. Because of this, I often found myself disliking a lot of RPG games. That is, until I played Stardew Valley. For those unfamiliar, Stardew Valley is a farming RPG game developed by one man known as Concerned Ape. At its core, the game is simple enough, and on the surface, it even seems to be super repetitive. Every day, you just wake up, farm your crops, do whatever around town, and then hit the hay. Despite this very simple loop, I found myself unable to put the game down, playing multiple hour sessions and staying up late just working on my farm. But how did a game about farming, a task which otherwise sounds boring, seem to draw me in more than any game with mystical dragons and swords or magic? The answer? Progression. Stardew Valley is able to nail progression in a way that most games just don't, so I wanted to take a look at the many different forms of progression that Stardew has, and how the game manages to keep you so engaged. For anyone new to the game, each day in Stardew Valley lasts from 6 AM up to 2 AM depending on how late you choose to stay up. Every 7 seconds in real life time correlates to 10 minutes in-game passing by. This makes each day about 15 minutes long. Within these 15 minutes, you'll have to tend to all your crops and animals, go to town to run any errands you might have, and try to talk to various townspeople or engage in the many side activities within the game. Then you have to be in bed before 2, where you then do it all over again the next day. I would argue that this day and night cycle does a few things though. 1, it forces you to make decisions with what you can accomplish in a day, and therefore you aren't just given this vast, overwhelming world of tasks to accomplish mindlessly one after the other. This also makes it so you have limits, and each day will bring on more and new opportunities. 2, it acts as a form of built-in progression, as everything in the game progresses through this cycle. Your plants, animals, and your sales, everything works through this day and night cycle. This cycle becomes the basis of what I'll call the micro-progression that occurs throughout the game, as every day you make small steps in accomplishing your overall goals. This daily progression becomes very obvious and gratifying as you can see your crops slowly growing and progressing every day, giving you something to look forward to and goals to work towards. This daily progression also culminates into a larger seasonal progression, where every season has 28 days. Whenever you enter a new season, it really feels like the world and weather is changing, as new events pop up on the calendar and the different crops and fish available change as well. This gives you the feeling of a constantly changing and progressing landscape, keeping things fresh throughout the year. Next, let's talk about skill progression in Stardew Valley. In the game, there are 5 main skills: farming, mining, foraging, fishing, and combat. Outside of that, there are no other stats you really need to worry about. The skill progression in the game works absolutely brilliantly, as it never feels forced. Simply just playing the game will get you progress. In fact, doing just about any activity contributes to some sort of progression. For example, as you naturally play through the game, you'll find yourself leveling up your farming skill. Then, once you're done managing your farm every day, you have free time to do other tasks, which will work on your other skills. When compared to leveling of skills in other RPG games, leveling skills here is significantly simpler, only having 10 total levels. The important thing about progression with these skills though, despite only having 10 levels, is that each level actually matters, and it isn't just a Skinner box. In case you aren't familiar with the concept of a Skinner box, it was basically the idea which stemmed from operant conditioning, where if an animal is being conditioned to do a task, like pulling a lever, they get a reward. The catch is, while at first the reward is motivating, it becomes less and less satisfying for the subjects as time goes on. In many RPGs, leveling, especially at higher levels, can feel like a Skinner box, where you do the required task and you see your skill number rise up. For a while, this will be satisfying, but oftentimes you're left to ask, does that number even really mean anything? In this way, the returns start to diminish and leveling up takes more work while feeling less satisfying as time goes on. In Stardew Valley on the other hand, with only 10 levels available per skill, it's formatted so that each level actually matters and makes a difference. Let's take the farming skill as an example. After your first few days or so, you hit level 1 farming, which grants you access to the scarecrow to protect your plants from birds, and basic fertilizer to improve the quality and sell price of your crops. These are super basic rewards, but a very natural progression of the farming minigame you'll play. Then, at level 2 you unlock the Mayo machine and the sprinkler. If you had the opportunity to invest in a chicken coop, this essentially allows you to convert your eggs to mayo, which sell for a higher price. The sprinkler also helps to water your crops and reduce the amount of effort you need to put into watering plants. What you'll find is that each level unlocks new things that you can craft, and each step feels like a very natural progression of where you are in the game and helps to increase what you're capable of doing at a certain point. When you hit level 5 and later level 10, you get choices of semi-permanent bonuses which you can level up, which you can make based on what you enjoy doing in the game. These include bonuses to the worth of animal or crop prices, as well as bonuses to help improve your yields and quality. Again, this leveling system makes it so each level actually matters, and it isn't just some number which slightly boosts a tiny modifier. You continuously unlock new helpful recipes which expand your game and allow you to do new and better activities to make more money. It makes it so you actually feel like you're improving throughout the game and your farm becomes better and better. The progression is always very natural and slowly introduces you to new concepts in the game. This same sort of system is in place for all the other skills as well, and so as you play the game, you'll naturally find the game options expanding and you can craft your experience towards what you enjoy and want to do. The skill progression also naturally contributes to the progression of the farm, and the development of your farm is what I would call one of the macro progressions in the game. As you make more and more money and unlock different tools to improve your farm and products, you'll start to see your farm change and evolve. This farm glow up is very visual and really helps to give you a sense of accomplishment as you go from a raggedy farm in the beginning to an almost self-regulating farm later in the game. Then there's the community center, which acts as one of the ultimate forms of progression in the game. In Stardew, there's a community center which you gain access to. The center has a variety of rooms, each one with a number of bundles which you need to complete. These bundles require farming certain crops, fishing certain critters, or crafting certain items. This acts as a built-in way to give players goals to work towards, as well as encouraging players to try out different skills and crops. Beyond that, completing the bundles also gives you different tools, which help with your farm progression. If you complete all the bundles in a room, it then unlocks an even bigger reward, such as minecarts, the quarry, the bus stop, and more. The community center is so brilliant because, again, it gives players an ultimate goal to reach toward, and completing the rooms leads to map progression, expanding the areas you can explore, and thereby granting you the ability to create bigger and better things for your farm. All of this progression is fully realized throughout the game and helps to contribute to the feeling that you're constantly growing and improving throughout. What's crazy is, I went through all this talk on progression, and I didn't even mention some of the item progression in the game, as well as the relationship progression with the different townspeople. Both of these are satisfying in their own ways as well. Stardew Valley is truly an expertly made game, where everything you do and every achievement you reach truly feels earned. For a game which on the surface is just about farming, Concerned Ape somehow took what would have been a very tedious game loop and made it beat the grind by giving the player so many options and tons of progression, spurring the player on to play just one more day. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button as it really helps my channel grow. And also feel free to let me know down below in the comments how some of your favorite games handle progression. I'd love to hear from you. And as usual, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.